That's your dad's Gibson?
rolling.
What year is that, Gibson?
Yeah, this is a 1932 L3, L5 maybe. He was in the Navy in World War II. He won it in a poker game. And it was sunburst when he bought it. And then he brought it home. And he liked Les Paul, who was just coming out at that time. Les Paul and Mary Ford. And he liked the way he played and everything, so he went and had this pickup put on here. And had a violin maker tighten up the fret and adjust this so that he could get up here and play leads without putting the cutaway into the guitar. And so it's actually got the E is here, so it's actually a 2-octave neck. Only musicians probably know what that means. But so it repeats quicker, so he can get up here higher. And it's spruce top, solid spruce top with bird's eye maple on the back. Absolutely gorgeous piece of wood. Bird's eye maple on the sides. And all the white is real ivory.
Oh, the inlay? Is
yes,
that right?
Yes, yeah.
That's beautiful.
And that's real pearl. Well, the same violin maker took off the headstock that said Gibson and had my father's last name, Pearly, put in pearl on the headstock instead.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Now, how I knew some of this history was not from my father directly, but as I was in a band and I wanted to get this working, so I took it to this music store that was miles from where I had grown up. And I walked in and I opened the case. And
I
up
in Buffalo, right.
In Buffalo. And I opened it up and I said, I want to get this done to this guitar. And he looked at me and goes, Jack is your dad. By now my dad had passed. I go, yeah. He goes, this is his guitar. I was in a band with him. And gives me the whole history that this was a Gibson, where it came from, and then gave me the name of the violin maker who did the work. And lo and behold, the violin maker, whose son, was still in business. And he had this big old wraparound porch wooden house in downtown Buffalo. And I went to see the son, and it was almost creepy. There were violin bodies and cello bodies and necks and parts of musical instruments and ukuleles and guitars everywhere. It was just things hanging everywhere in every sort of condition. And in the back, he had these rows of file cabinets, and he went into the file cabinet under my father's name and found the receipt that his dad had written to do the adjustment work in the neck.
And remove the...
Yeah, and confirming to me that it in fact is a Gibson. And then years later, when I had the opportunity, I went to the Gibson headquarters in Michigan and took it in there to them to see what they would want to do it. A well-meaning aunt, after my father's death, attempted to refinish it for me.
Oh.
And I would like to take it back to the tobacco burst that, like this Strat has here, and put it back to its factory color, which is like this.
Oh, that's the way the sunburst is supposed to look?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And put it back to that. But I would probably actually want to have Gibson actually do it, and not some local guy.
Well,
it's a real heirloom, one-of-a-kind piece, and even this red here is not plastic, it's actually Bakelite.
Oh, yeah.
That my dad fashioned himself when the Ivory Bridge wore through.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah. Beautiful piece.
Well, the other argument is because of what your dad did, that was his desire, you know, to do it like this, and
he didn't want
that's
blonde. That was my aunt messing to
oh,
finish up.
well,
yeah.
I thought you said that the violin maker took the
no,
sunburst
he
off.
didn't change the finish. No, my aunt.
Oh, I see.
Aunt
I get it.
Well-meaning.
Details.
Yeah. my aunt, after he died.
Oh, okay.
To me, like as a.
She thought that was the thing to
gift
do.
To me,
I get it.
Attempted to refinish it. Because what had happened was he played hard. He was a jazz player. So from here to here was raw. It looked like Willie Nelson's guitar. It was there and here. It was rawed out. It probably looked god-awful to everybody. But that's the way he played up here.
By the fingerboard.
Yeah,
You're not talking about...
Yeah, he was a jazz guy. He played up here. I used to watch him. He played up here like this. And he had this raw.
He was your first teacher.
It was raw here. It was raw here. And I guess she thought she would do... You know, it was well-intentioned, but it was a 1932 Gibson. She shouldn't have touched it. Frankly, if it still had the sunburst and was worn like Willie Nelson's, I would leave it. I wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, well, that's true.
You know, I would never touch the the vintage, the real vintage ones that I own. It's not worth it. The guitars are so cheap. Go get a cheap one and play with that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, these are like museum pieces.
Yeah, and I would like to restore it to its original. It doesn't even have a truss rod. In the days that this were built, they didn't have.
They didn't use truss rods then.
They didn't have it, so it has what they call a skunk stripe in the neck.
Oh.
And that's a solid piece of ivory.
They preload it.
Ebony.
They preload it and wedge it in.
It's ebony. That goes right through to the bottom of the fretboard. And here it is, a 1932 with no truss rod.
They pre-tension it and wedge it in. That's
straight.
Amazing.
Straight as an arrow.
Huh.
No buzzes, stays in tune.
What a story. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
An amazing piece.